Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of Julie Henneberry on Beyond the Shield. If you are here today, I ask you hit the subscribe button because you subscribers are what make this thing work. Without you, I have an empty studio. So, Julie, welcome back. I appreciate you taking your time here to finish up our story that we started. We talked last episode about your dad and what happened that day and your recollection and some of the things that were affected your life. And we're going to go a little bit farther into that because I think it is vitally important that those who lived it continue to pass on their story. But I also think there is so much more beyond it, and that is the effect of what happens to us, to our families, to those that lost loved ones there. But more importantly, the path to recovery and the path to doing to not giving up your life and not letting your life be destroyed. Because again, if your life's destroyed, then the people who took those towers down win.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
So I live that every day. I think that because quite frankly, in my own little world, there was a time, and it pretty much cost me a relationship and a marriage, that I was just so bitter and angered, I couldn't get over it. And then I realized the same thing, that, well, if I continue to be bitter and angry, they win. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. So you mentioned that you obviously lived in New York, and here we are in the Conway Shield studio in Milwaukee. And the story is kind of funny that you decided one day to up and leave New York with your horse.
Yes.
And because it's easy to find room and board for a horse anywhere, and you packed up and came here.
Yeah, so there's a couple of steps in between that. So I grew up in New York, Westtown, New York. Went through the Minisink Valley school system, and then I graduated high school, and I probably collectively have been back to my home like maybe 2 weeks since like I was 17 years old. So I graduated high school, and I actually went to school in Virginia for 2 years. So I went to a liberal arts school there, and I rode on their equestrian team. So my main objective when I went to college was to study art and ride horses. And I do attribute being able to survive 9/11 and the aftermath to horses. The fact that I had something to wake up and do every day. You know, like horses don't care that you're sad. Horses don't care that you're tired. Like they still need to be fed. They still need to be turned out. They're still need to be mucked. So the fact that I had horses, I think really helped shape me, because my therapist will ask me like, oh, what do you think is different between you and like your siblings or like someone else that went through like a tragedy? And I'll be like, I think it's the horses. The horses really saved me, being at the barn and being around, like, I had really, really great trainers that, like, I don't know if they know this, but like, I think like they almost raised me. Like when I didn't have like a parental control, I had really good coaches. So my objective when I went to college was to do art.
So
and
you were
horses.
an equestrian team in high school?
No. So,
Okay.
well, I rode my
Okay.
horses,
I was
but they
thinking,
do
what
have that though. They
what
do
a
have high school
uppity
equestrian
neighborhood
teams.
you guys lived in.
We had our horses. But I went to college, so I went to school in Virginia for 2 years, and then I transferred to SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia. So I went there for 3 years. And it was an art school, and I studied painting and rode on the equestrian team. And my college roommate studied fashion, and she ended up getting a job after graduation at Kohl's, which is here. And she was like, well, keep being my roommate. And like my home life was not good. It was not good. And I was like, well, I'm definitely not going home. So I moved to Wisconsin with her. I was like, okay, sounds good. And I took my horse with me. I literally walked into barns and introduced myself. So like the fact that I had some motivation to get out of the house, it made me be like friendly and outgoing and learn how to present myself and have confidence to just walk into a barn and be like, hey, you want to take me and my horse in? So I did. I like had to advocate a lot for myself to make things happen, to like bring this to fruition. And, you know, it was really hard and scary being young, but like, I mean, it helped me grow. So yeah, I moved here with my college roommate. She ended up getting married like a year and a half later and left me here. So and I'm still here.
Okay.
Um,
So, it's interesting because there are, I know I have a friend that she's a firefighter out east, and she was having some struggles,
okay.
and she went. The sister of a firefighter that was murdered on the 11th, has I could be wrong in the story, but either has her own or it's family related, but they have a ranch, I believe,
Okay.
in Montana,
Okay.
and said, come on out, take some time, get a breather. And she fell in love with horses,
Mm-hmm.
and it was amazing therapy for her.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, a guy who had 2 horses, to me, they were 1,500-pound crap factories. But
Hay burners.
hay burners, yes, hay burners. They used to, my wife is I don't know. I used to say that they poop more every day in her weight. They poop more than her weight every single day, and I got to muck it out of the barn. Yeah, And they were too old to ride. They were all. They were
then
both,
they come lawn ornaments. Yeah.
they were 30 years old or
Yep.
whatever, and it was like, oh, at any time.
Big expensive dogs.
Yes, huge. So I have a different love for horses than you do.
But no, I understand what you're saying too. So like I lost my last horse in February of last year, and it was really, really hard, like emotional. Like she ended up having an injury, and it was like a week of being like back and forth. And like I actually used to work at a vet clinic, and it took the vet coming to me and being like, Julie, I think the best thing to do was put her down. But like I look back now and I'm like, I'm not ready for another horse. It was an emotional toll. It's a lot of time. Like, and losing her was really like, it hit me really hard. Like I said to my husband, I was like, I'm really afraid I'm going to get depressed. And it's funny because now looking back, I ended up getting accepted by Tunnels to Towers in the New York City Marathon, like 2 weeks exactly from the day like I lost her. So it filled in that gap of having something to occupy me, like physically and mentally. So I like lost my horse, but then Tunnels to Towers got me into the New York City Marathon. So it's like I went from one thing to the next. But like, I mean, yeah. I mean, I credit a lot of like me being able to move forward was having horses and just like the sense of responsibility that I couldn't like let my life go off the rails, that I still had to wake up and have some responsibility every day.
It's funny because that's what, when I talk to vets who have their dogs, they'll say the exact same thing. It's that my dog doesn't allow me to go into my depressive state, because that dog depends on me every single day to get up, let it out, feed it, get it water, groom it, all these other things. And in turn, he gives me love back, even though I'm an absolute jack to it at times. It still loves me back. And it doesn't care. It just wants to be fed.
Yeah.
And all these other things. So it's interesting. It's just like you said, I never put it in the idea of a horse is nothing more than a big dog.
Yeah. Because eventually you can't ride them anymore. So that's what, I never sold any of my horses. They all just, they ended their days with us. So like after my dad died, my mom, like down the street from, like we literally moved like a block, but my mom ended up buying another house, and then we built a barn. So like all of our retired horses came home, and then we actually adopted some from Centenary College. And that was how they lived out their days, which is like, I'm so lucky that we could do that for them. But man, it's hard. It's so hard. And I've been on the other side of it, working at a vet clinic and then being an owner. And it's the worst part of owning them. But like the lessons that the horses have given me, like you can't put a price on that.
Well, that's interesting.
Anyway,
no,
that's my
good.
spiel about horses.
No, that's good. That's good. So you end up here.
Oh yeah. I end up in Wisconsin, Milwaukee. Which I don't think I could find it. If you asked me in high school where Wisconsin is, I don't know if I could have found it on the map.
Well, I'll tell you, when I first started visiting New York City in the 80s, and I would go to the companies up in the Bronx and so on and so forth, and because Timmy worked up there originally when I met him 40 years ago. And we'd go to 73s, and the guys would be like, Wisconsin, you're a firefighter where? in Milwaukee. You guys volunteer there? No, there's 1,200 of us. Really? No kidding. And it got to the point where I would joke and they'd say, where are you from again? I'd say, Wisconsin. I barely made it. I had to fight Indians to get here. The wagon train almost didn't make it to New York. And they like, I say, well, dude,
Just lean into it.
The fact is you think that there's no civilization west of the Hudson River, bro. There's actually people live out there besides Jersey, and it was just funny that they would always say, where again? Where is that? Like by Missouri? No. Canada? Kind of.
Getting closer.
Getting closer. But yeah, so they do have a different, I can see where you would say, I don't even know where Wisconsin was. But you did end up here. And before we get into a little more of that, because I do want to talk, I think I've met you, I've met your son, I've met your husband, and you have an amazing family. I'll say on the outside, very well centered. Oh,
my husband probably would say different stuff about me this morning.
And your son is we had dinner together and he was very well behaved, and that's something that, quite frankly, I don't find sometimes now. But let's go back to the 11th and let's talk for a minute about. You started to mention in the previous episode. Well, you started to mention that this should be taught in all the schools and so on and so forth. And I think I want to go into two different things there. And one of them is the world is always changing. And that, again, I never forgot Pearl Harbor because my dad drilled it into my head constantly. And I think that there is a tremendous amount, as time goes by, human condition says we don't want to, human nature says we don't want to remember the bad things.
Yeah, we'll try anything to avoid it.
But the reality is that day happened. And we know exactly how it happened. And I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there that, this happened and that happened. And, oh, my God, this was a missile or this was that and this was that. Well, whether it be New York City, where I saw the plane parts, physically saw that. So it's like, okay, so if this happened, if we did this, we blew the building up, let's say. What'd they do? Sneak the plane parts in? Just show them up there? Where'd the people go? As a friend of mine says who would work the Pentagon, he's like, yeah, I took those children off that plane, out of their seats. Don't tell me it was a missile. So we can go into depth on who might have caused it, who might have been aware of it, a lot of other different things. Okay, some of those discussions I'm more than willing to have. Who was behind it? Like, I know the families are really pushing with the Saudis right now.
Oh yeah, people don't realize that. Like, we got Guantanamo Bay. That's still a thing that gets swept under the rug. Like, I don't think America is paying attention to that.
No.
We have a lawsuit going on in New York, and everything's. I mean, it's 25 years later. I remember when my mom signed us up for this, and we got lawyers. I remember her saying to us, like, "I might not see the end of this stuff, but maybe you kids will." She's saying this to me when I'm like 12 years old.
Yeah. Well, like you said, we still have people at Gitmo.
Oh my God. That's a whole nother podcast, because that'll grind your gears like nothing else. Like, talk about getting re-traumatized all over again. Like, I know people that, like, family members that can't open up their emails because they're afraid, like, now what? Now what's going to get canceled?
Yeah.
Now what did they find?
Or who got let out, or who just got sent home? Oh yeah, okay, we get rid of that. We get rid of this. We eliminated these folks. We did this, that, or the other thing. And it's kind of you. And I'm off topic, but it's kind of that you ask yourself, how long does this go on? How long does this go on?
I mean, I have my own thoughts about it. I think they want enough of us to pass away where no one cares anymore.
And I think you're right.
They're so, like, and I think, like,
the thing is, these cats will die.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to die.
Well, that's the thing. These guys are going to die innocent, sitting there on a the island in
On
Cuba.
their Caribbean vacation.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Like they're, time's going to get them before we do.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Anyway, oh my gosh. Well, that's a whole nother conversation.
So,
because part of me is like, how many opportunities, how many people get an opportunity to go to a military black site? Because I want to go one day and experience it myself. I read about it. My aunt goes down all the time. And I'm like, I think I want to go. And I think just once will be enough.
I think I know a guy who can help you with that.
Yeah. I mean, I get the emails. I get the invites. Like, I can go. And I've just started saying to my husband, I really think I want to go and experience it and just see what it's really like. And again, I think once is enough. But you get an opportunity to sit down with the defense lawyers and ask them questions and stuff. And I've heard stories and but it's we get re-traumatized all over again.
Well,
this gets dragged out.
And that's interesting because I would ask you because you are understanding of you have a good understanding of your feelings and your thoughts and walk through with therapy and so on and so forth.
It's been a journey.
I'm
it's not every day's easy and not every moment's good.
I didn't experience what you did, and I can tell you that every day is a journey for me. So, but I it's that thing of if you had the opportunity to meet the people who planned this and actually physically see them, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know, but I think I would want the opportunity to get it while I have it.
Yep.
And I don't know unless I went through the experience. But it's so interesting because who has the opportunity to go see the masterminds of their parents? It's so bizarre, the situation I'm in. And I get it. People lose their parents. They lose loved ones all the time and everyone's situation is different. But it's my dad probably had no idea that this was in store for my life. This wasn't in his grand vision for his
kids. Oh, I'm
kids.
sure not. Of course not.
So that's, again, sometimes I get angry when I'm oh man, had you not been there, I wouldn't be going through this right now. But I can't change the cards I was dealt. I can only go forward with what I have to work with. So I try to remind myself. But I'm this is really messed up. This is not okay that we're going through this. And then I have conversations again with my therapist and my husband. It's frustrating because I get lumped into this group of people. There's 15,000 of us, roughly, right? Between the parents, the siblings, the kids, and everyone's idea of justice is different.
Absolutely.
And it gets really frustrating at times being a part of that group, especially as a 9/11 child, having your voice get heard because it's we're the masses. It's not we're suing this one person that murdered a family member.
You're suing.
The case is so bizarre and out of hand and ridiculous at this point where I'm man.
Yeah, you're suing the kingdom.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, and that's one part of it. Oh man. So, and some days I can handle it way more now. I'll read the emails and I'll be this is BS. But then I'll go about and go color with my son, I've kind of come to terms with this bizarreness I have to deal with. And just keep going with my life as a normal human being. But I sit there and I'm my neighbor's not opening up this email about what's going on in Guantanamo or this case in New York. Or for the medical examiner to be calling me, interesting.
I went to an event and I feel bad because I cannot think of the young lady's name. I met her and her son. She is an advocate for the families.
Okay.
Her husband was a trader.
Okay.
There. I feel bad. I wish I should have wrote her name down in prep. I apologize.
And some of these people, I start to you get to know them.
Yeah.
It's a closed group of people. We're not getting any big.
She's an amazing. She's a sweetheart. She's an amazing advocate for, Cantor Fitzgerald. I think that's where he worked.
Yep.
And I met her son, who is probably in his 20s now. you know.
Okay. He's
So
really
he must have
young.
been really little.
Mm-hmm.
And she's fighting tooth and nail.
I probably know her.
I'm sure
know?
you do.
Yeah.
And I'll after off camera, I'll look it up and I'll have it because I sat at dinner with her. I mean, literally, we sat at the same table together at an event down in Florida for Aaron Vaughn, thing called Mission 300, or but it was a fundraiser for Operation 300. Sorry, and Terry's her name.
Oh,
Terry.
Strada.
Yeah, Terry Strada. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, because there's these advocates that some of them have been doing it since day one, like Terry, right? And their names keep coming up, and they built this network.
And
then
Deborah Burlingame also I'm very
okay.
familiar with, but Terry Strada, I was with Terry Strada.
And it's going back to like I'm in this like collective group where it's like such a double-sided coin because I have people like Terry that advocate for us like tirelessly that like I can take a break, that I don't need to do that. Now, one day the kids are going to be the only ones that are left, right? But I'm so like grateful and fortunate that I have other people kind of to do the heavy lifting for me. You know, like I don't need to be on all the time because there's like a whole group of us and a voice. So it's like such a double-sided coin that it's like sometimes it gets frustrated that I'm in this like sea of people and like I feel like I get lost. But then it's also like, okay, well, I don't need to go do these other things because people are already advocating for me, if that makes sense. Yep. So it's like, it's such a like catch-22. Like sometimes I get really frustrated and sometimes I'm really fortunate that like I don't have to go to Guantanamo, you know?
Yep.
Like other people are, yes, I want to go and I want to experience it, but like I don't feel like I don't need to go for it to keep going, whatever speed it's going at. And right now I have like the advocacy of like the 9/11 community to try to push things forward as much as they can.
Well, and like you said, you know, the reality is we're all getting older, and that group's going to get smaller, and it will be put on the backs of the children, and then it'll have to get pushed forward because there is, you know, this is the side of a conspiracy that there are some things to be looked at. There are some things that say, you know, maybe as we look into this, the enemy of my enemy is not my friend. And there's other things that, you know, play in that it would be nice to get to the bottom of. Will it change anything?
No.
Absolutely not.
So I give myself breaks and I give myself like grace periods. Like I can't go at this like and like
oh God,
rack
no,
my
you'd
brain.
lose your mind.
Yeah. So it's like I think about that. I'm like, you know, if I get worked up or like in a tizzy, like my dad's still dead. It's not changing anything. Would it be great to obviously hold people accountable and get to the bottom of it? Yeah. But it's like I know when I reach my limit and I give myself time to like recharge my battery and then we just come back to it. But to your point, I'm trying to educate myself now and get myself up to speed because I feel like I'm like decades behind some of these people. So I try to read as much as I can, ask questions when I can, reach out to people when I can, because I know one day it's just going to be the children because no one's trying to button this up anytime soon.
Nope. And
there's too many of us.
And it definitely, like you said, you can't make it front and center all the time.
No,
you'll lose your mind.
Yeah, and I can't. I'm so grateful every day. Obviously, the 9/11, you never know what's going to happen that day. So every day is a blessing. Every time you see a sunset, you know, like that you made it to the end of the day. So it's like I'm not going to spend my time getting myself in a tizzy about it. Yes, I will dedicate some brain space to it, but like my dad wouldn't want that for us.
No, because again, we're back to the same thing. If you can't get off the X, if you're stuck in that day,
I've seen people like that they've
won.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of what I think about a marathon when I do the marathon. I'm like, every time I put one step in front of the other and like I have the emotional and physical capacity to keep going, it proves that they didn't win.
Yep. Absolutely. It definitely, we'll see how it all works its way out, and we'll see how long it takes. But one thing and maybe this is the cynical part of me, is one thing I've for years, there are communities that have said that our justice is not fair,
Mm-hmm.
and that some are mistreated, and you have to be in my shoes to understand it. I've had family members that say, yeah, well, as they say, DWB is a thing. If you're in certain communities, it's a thing. And you have to live it to experience it. But what I do look as somebody who's seen a one or two things in life, is that I always say that those of strong power, real power. We're not talking about, I'm the fire chief of the city of Milwaukee. I'm talking about power.
Mm-hmm.
They're never going to be responsible.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You may think it. You may think that I'm going to find out who did this, and that guy's going to be, and if it was somebody in our government, they're going to pay. No, they're not.
Mm-mm.
They're just not. They're just not. And maybe I'm wrong. And maybe I'll be proven wrong. But some people always just seem to dodge bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so as we started this, tell me about what you think the education to our younger, to our children, and the education that should be put forward so that we truly never forget this.
Yeah.
Because, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. So 9/11 obviously happened in the time of video recording. So like we talked about the French filmmakers documentary, like that, I strongly believe that should be shown in every high school in September. Like I don't think like in elementary, like it'll be a long time before my son watches it, but I will show it to him one day. And then I think in my position, I have resources for like young kids like my son, because obviously he's asking questions, but I have books, and like I've asked people, how do I explain this to a 5-year-old? Like, what is age appropriate? We need to start introducing it younger, because like you said, it's like I don't want it to be swept under the rug and like forgotten about. Like growing up, Pearl Harbor seemed like it was like a foreign concept to me, like it was abstract, because it didn't feel close. I couldn't touch it. And that's how 9/11 probably feels to all these kids that weren't even born. And my son's in a position where he's going to go to school and no one else is going to be in his position. Like he's never going to go to school on September 11th. I'm always going to pull him out. And he's going to be like, I'm in the middle of Wisconsin. Why am I getting pulled out of school for an event that happened 25, 30 years ago, halfway across the country? But it does affect us today, and people don't realize that how it's changed our world. And it's harder for like the younger generation, because that's all they know is like a post 9/11 world. And I'm all for like showing things like that French documentary, because it's not like it shows terrible, like it shows enough to make you feel like you're there. And then places like the Wisconsin 9/11 Memorial, that to be utilized in the area. So making it an open conversation and not something that's like taboo to talk about, and like opening the door for questions. Like I'm in a position where I would love to be able to go and talk to students about it and answer their questions. And it's taken me a really long time to be okay with that and get to this point. Like I know some people that can't even think about 9/11, like that lost parents or something. And it's like, and that's fine. That's their thing. Everyone deals differently. But I realize that unless I talk about it and share my story, and if I'm okay with it, it's going to be lost. And I don't want my dad deserves more. All those people that were murdered deserve more. And I don't want it to get repeated. So I will do what I can to share it. And that's why I try to, that's one of my motivations of like unpacking this stuff. Because every time I talk about it, it does get easier. I mean, it's not fun, but it does get easier and better. It's funny when I leave for therapy, my husband's like, have fun. I'm like, what do you think I do? Like, I'm not doing cartwheels there.
That's funny. That's very funny.
And he's just trying to be polite.
Yeah. Yep. No, I get it. I get it. I mean, there's some things you, as a man, I would think I'd say, all right, what am I supposed to tell her?
Yeah,
here? 'Cause
yeah.
I
He
really
just
don't know.
Yeah, he just
So I'll
wants
just
to,
say, hey, have fun, honey. Have a good day.
and I tell him, I'm like, that's silly.
Yeah. You know, I'm a little. I agree with what you're saying 100%. I'm a little stronger. I know you said you didn't see it in the museum, but there's a room. There's a room you stand in, and it has all the conversations.
You're talking about like the tablets and people.
Yeah, it might be.
Because I saw a small part of the museum, so maybe.
Okay,
never...
so it's a room you stand in, and it's all the voices. It's phone calls from the planes.
Oh, like I can't deal with.
It's phone calls from home. It's and then on the wall, there's the videos.
Okay, yeah, I did.
Of people leaping.
See.
And there's people, you know, the people holding hands as they jump out the window, and all of these things, and maybe it's because it's still visceral to me after all these years. Because I look at that and I think if that was my wife, I'm not sure how I would have wrapped my head around it. And it's portrayed I know that people in the French film, you hear the boom, boom.
So they don't show it, but you hear it and they talk
people
about
are
it.
saying, oh, those are bombs going off. No, they weren't. They were human beings hitting the concrete and vaporizing. And so to me, it's like, I don't want to say I'm going to show this in a grade school. And probably, you know, when I was in high school, we didn't have video, but when I was in high school, we had probably, I don't know, bigger than the picture I'm going to show later on, of all of the pictures of the concentration camps. And they were very graphic. And they were graphic because when the teachers taught us, they wanted us to know that, look, this is what happened. This is it wasn't like that. Oh, it was this. So no, this is pictures from the United States Army when they got into those camps. And to me, I never forgot those pictures. And to me, that needs to be part of the story also. Because I want us as human beings to realize that Islamic extremists did this to our people. They did this. And your countrymen lost their lives that day harshly. This wasn't I'm going to lay down and develop smoke inhalation. This was a horrible moment in our time. So I just think that it does need to be, and I know that some schools are really pushing it forward and some...
Do you think because we're separated by distance in Wisconsin that it's not like on the forefront of like, because then I understand it's hard because it's right at the beginning of the school year, but like, so in New York, like I feel like it's such like, oh yeah, we'll talk about 9/11 because it's like happened to our community.
If that's the case, I guess the question is, when I was a child, I was taught all about American history, oddly enough, American history from the Civil War, from the Revolutionary War, all the way up to, at the time, the Vietnam War. Well, actually, Vietnam was going on. So, but you know, what I was taught all of that, and that's Southeast Asia, halfway across the world. But I was taught that. I think it's because we have, personal opinion, this form of terrorism is based with a religious base. And we, I think, have a country right now that either can't differentiate between a extremist and somebody else, or don't want to offend
Sure.
don't want to, I don't want to make somebody mad. I don't want to upset somebody. Yeah, well, for your father, I'll piss somebody off. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I won't do it blatantly. I won't do it. You know, I when I was in New York City afterwards, I'm a big fan of Knishes. And I'm a big fan of sidewalk pretzels.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, I'd have to, sometimes they gave me like a 4-wheeler.
Okay.
And I could go, if they needed something, I could
Oh, okay.
jump in, I'd get in it and I'd drive over. For example, there was a gentleman by the name of John O'Connell. He was a collapse guy. And John used to smoke cigars a lot. And he'd be out of cigars. So I would drive over to a cigar store and procure some cigars.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, in the process, I may swing over and grab a Knish from the cart. And I remember, you know, people hollering out of windows or walking by, you know, don't buy from that blankety blank blank. And it's like, dude, he's a Sikh.
Mm-hmm.
He's not.
Mm-hmm.
He's hello.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have your, you're not paying attention here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can understand that. And I know you.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
I can understand that. But we also have to, call it what it is. And there are individuals who did this
Mm-hmm.
that fit in a category.
Mm-hmm.
And we shouldn't be setting that aside.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't set that aside. And we could talk probably for another hour about the current election in New York City, but again, there are not everybody's a terrorist.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be clear. And there is a difference. But we shouldn't hide the fact that terrorists did this to us.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. And I don't know why it's not really taught as much, but I think that's one of the reasons we're afraid to offend. It's much like, and again, I'm a strong believer in we have to know our history.
Mm-hmm.
We interned U.S. citizens of Japanese descent because somebody thought it was a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And this is history has shown these things. And it, people could say, well, it was under a Democratic Party or this, that, or other thing. That's really irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Both parties are not free of sin. But I also look and I say, we have written evidence that we had people in Washington, D.C., for example, that knew the Holocaust was going on and turned a blind eye.
Mm-hmm.
No, that can't be. Nobody can kill 6 million people. That's ridiculous. So obviously,
It's like coming to terms with like your shortcomings and
yes,
owning up to it.
owning up to them. So we have to, in this, we should not change it. Tell it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And if we find that there were other things involved and they're verified, okay, we'll add that into the story and say, this is where we made our mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we did wrong. But that's history. It's history. It's not right or wrong. It's history,
Mm-hmm.
period.
Yes.
And that should be taught in our schools. 100%. 100%. So you seem to be very well balanced. And
thanks. It's
and I know you'll say that your husband might think otherwise. But I
it really wasn't for a really, really long time. Like my home was broken after my dad died, and I called it we stuffed it for a really long time. And I try not to like put too much blame on someone, but it took me leaving a bad situation and becoming a parent for me to be like, I can't do that to my own son, and to know I have to heal myself so I don't project my problems onto him. And like I knew that like in my brain before we even started like a family, my husband and I, because I always said to him, I was like, before we have kids, like I need to go therapy. Like I know that. And then we had our son unexpectedly. And I was like, I really got some baggage I need to unravel here. And then I had a really, really hard time postpartum. And it was like 9/11 just came rushing back. And it was just like a wave of emotion and sadness that I just attributed. It was like a dam broke. And I was like, I need to go talk to someone. Like, this isn't fair for my son to be like collateral damage of like my dad's death. So it really took having my son and wanting to do better for him to do better for me, because I can't, like, I have to do one to get the other. So it's like I have to do this stuff for me so I don't damage him. I'm sure I'm doing my own stuff to him that I'm sure will come up, and I'm sure I'm doing my own fun damage to him in my own special way. But like
Julie, remember, there's no manual. They don't give you. People say their own crap, but there's no manual.
But I just didn't want I didn't want it to be generational trauma of my dad's death. So I forced myself to be okay with talking about it and being like, what happened to me was absolutely terrible. Like that day, what happened to my dad and the aftermath, like, none of this is okay, but how can we go forward with not being okay with it? So it really took me becoming a mom to make me open up that door, because I knew I couldn't do this to somebody else.
Well, when we go out and we coach, we always say that in order to lead others, you need to lead yourself first. Mm-hmm. So you have to be a leader of yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to have your own self-discipline. You have to be inflection on yourself and who you are and how to make yourself better. And when you are leading yourself, if you make a mistake, the only one who knows that you did it wrong was you, because it's internal. And I think you bring up a good point that as a parent, that also holds true, in that you have to take care of yourself and heal yourself so that you can in turn do that for your children, because otherwise you're never going to, it's going to shine through. And
probably in a negative way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like my son attributes going to New York as, that's where mommy cries. But we tell him it's okay to cry, and we explain it to him. We're like, well, like, and he talks about it like a 5-year-old. He'll be like, Grandpa went into a building that an airplane flew into to save people, and then the building fell and he died. And he doesn't understand, like, because sometimes kids joke about death and killing, but like I tell him, I'm like, this is serious. Like, this is not a joking matter, because mommy's dad died and it was a terrible thing. So like we're trying to, like, I don't want to traumatize them, but like we're very open about it. And it's like when I get upset about it, I'll be like, oh, why is mommy upset? And my husband will be like, well, she's upset about grandpa. Like my son equates like going to a firehouse with like me being hysterical, like me crying. But also teaching him, like, it's okay to cry and it's okay to be upset, and it's not something that's taboo, because that's the message I got growing up, maybe indirectly.
Well, you are German, and the only ones that have a stronger stiff upper lip than Germans are Norwegians.
Well, and I'm that too. So
there you have it.
And it's funny because people will ask me stories about my dad, and like I'll tell stories and stuff, but I go back, I'm like, he wasn't right all the time. Like sometimes we glorify, people that have died, but I remember getting bullied on the bus, like in elementary school, and being upset about it. And I'll never forget this. I remember my dad being like, "We'll never let them see you cry." And now I understand what he was trying to teach me, but I look back now, I'm like, that gave me the messaging, like it's not okay to be upset. And it's funny now because I feel like I'm so open with stuff and like so open with being upset that I'm like, I let everyone see me cry.
Yeah. Well, but that is, I was pretty much raised the same way. And that was part of, I think, a generational, that's just how it was.
Yes.
Tough it up, get over it, especially if you were a boy. You knock him in, somebody's bullying you on a bus, beat the crap out of him. Punch him in the face. That'll stop the bullying. Okay. And now I'd say this to my grandkids, and my kids would be like, don't ever say it again. No, just don't ever say it again. Please, Dad, don't ever say it again. It's just how we were raised different.
Sure.
But I will say, I lost a tremendous amount of my life with my children when they were younger because I was that guy. not happy-go-lucky. I'm always looking for the ninja that's going to jump out of the corner and attack us, and I got to find the fire exit, and I got to do all
What's
these
the
other
anxiety?
things.
Yeah, it's anxiety.
I'm always
Mm-hmm.
stoic.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bad day at work. We lost 8 people one day. Button it up.
Then it makes it taboo to talk about it. Then it makes it like almost like a monster under the.
Yeah, what happens is that you talk about it with your 3 or 4 friends that were there with you.
Sure.
And we usually do that with a bottle of whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
And that perpetuates this problem that doesn't get any better.
Yeah, correct. And yeah, I mean, I see that within the 9/11 community too. Like, I think peer counseling is great. Like, I think talking about it with people that went through it is good, but it's also getting outside that circle and getting outside of that closed loop. Like, you have to go talk to somebody else.
Yes.
Like, peer counseling is good to a certain extent.
Yes.
Because like they have, so like some organizations will have that for 9/11 kids. I'm like, that's great that you have that, but I need a professional. Like, I don't need someone, like, it's like the blind leading the blind.
Yes. No, 100%. I mean, 100%. I don't argue that. You can't just make things up.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start wrapping this up because I've held you here for close to 2 hours. And when I said that you seem very well balanced, and you mentioned that your horses were a great value to you as you walked this through, and the birth of your son was a greater value because you had to realize you had to own yourself and do all these things. And fortunately, you have a husband that gets it.
He's very, very patient. My husband is so patient.
I'm blessed with a woman that she tolerates me, and she knows I'm bat crazy. But
my husband would say the same thing about me.
Yeah. So, but there are 2 things that you do, and from what I understand, you do them as you just said, the marathons. You do these things as a healing,
an outlet, a positive outlet.
Thank you, a positive outlet. And one of them is running. So
you have filled the hole of not having a horse right now. My son does ride, so I'm vicariously living through him right now. But yes, so I did take up marathon.
Yeah. Marathon. I don't know why you would do that. I did one. That was plenty.
I don't know either, Paul.
But that was plenty. Chicago, I did that and thought, okay, this is that 26 miles is easy. It's that 0.2 that it is miserable. So you've used that as an outlet. And how has that worked for you?
It's like like we just said, I don't know why I do it, but it's addicting, and it's a great challenge. Like, it gives me like a goal to strive for, time wise. Like, you want to beat the clock, like your own clock. Physically, it keeps you in good shape. Well, as long as you don't break down.
I just want people to know that when I did run marathons, the firehouse used to call me the fittest fat man around because I was 230 pounds and running marathons.
But it's also a mental game too,
yes,
of not giving up on yourself. I've got to the point where my doctor's like, not finishing's an option, because like, I mean, I will finish no matter what, no matter how.
Well, your doctor doesn't see the amount of training. The training is what's.
I'm like, rationally, I understand what you're saying to me, but I was like, when you're at mile 22, like, you're not going to call for the cart.
No.
So my very first marathon I did with Tunnels to Towers, like I said, so about 2 weeks after my horse got put down, I got into the Tunnels to Towers team for the 2024 New York City Marathon. And the way it works when you run for a charity is you have to fundraise like a certain amount. So, so I left New York in 2013. After that, it took me 10 years to go back, and I went back specifically to meet the medical examiner and to go to the museum. And then about a year later, I went back for the marathon. And it was just such a positive experience. Like, I feel like I have such an interesting relationship with New York City, because I remember as a kid and being fun and going to the firehouse. And then I just remember like hating it. Like, my mom would drag us to all these memorials and all these ceremonies. And I'd be like, like 12, 13, 14, being like, do I have to sit 6 more hours and listen to these people say the same thing over and over again? So I'm going back to do things for me and to honor my dad in ways that I would like to do it instead of like being forced to do things. Cause like I didn't go back to the firehouse for like 10 years. So there's a difference between doing something because you're being forced to do something and doing something because you want to do something.
Absolutely.
So now I'm going back because I want to do it. So yeah, so I did the New York City Marathon and I've done 2 more since then, and then probably, hopefully, a couple in 2026.
Well, I've never run New York City. My ex-wife did, and we were out there for that. And I do say that it is a, it's really cool to run that.
It is
to start in the SI and then run across the Narrows Bridge and all through all the boroughs and end up in Central Park. And
so that's the first one I did. It's a really high standard because like I've done 2 since then, and I'm like, man, New York is really cool.
Yeah.
Like I can't wait to get back and do it again.
Yeah, I mean, just even the Javits Center. I don't know if it's still there, but everything was at the Javits Center, so you picked up all your stuff there, and it was really an event. It was really fun. I wasn't running it, so it was really fun. But
so now I'm getting a different relationship with New York, one that's less depressing.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
One step at a time.
So you've been running, and you also have another hobby, which is you are a painter, painter of horses. I will say.
So I studied painting, like I said, at SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design. So I have a degree in painting, and it's funny because one of my very first memories is being like 5 years old and drawing a horse, and my brother was sitting next to me, and he had to be like 3. And I remember looking at his and being like, his stinks, mine's good. So like I was always into drawing horse art or like painting horses, even before I started riding them. So it's fun it's incredible that that's still what I get to do now. So I like to say I'm a mother by day, artist by nap time. So now my son's in school full time. So now I'm like an artist by school time.
Yeah.
But I've taken that skill and used it towards my fundraising for these marathons. So like I fundraised for the New York City Marathon in 2024, and it was just basically me sharing my story and asking people for money. In 2025, I ran the Chicago Marathon with Ignite the Spirit Fund down in Chicago. And I was like, well, how can I make this more fun for myself and everyone else? Because I know I get annoying asking people for money. So I took a photograph from Scott Kerrigan. He's so gracious that he lets me use his photographs. And I turned it into a piece of art. And then whoever was the highest donator to my fundraiser, I like to say gifted. Because I like don't want to make it seem like it's a competition, but I'm like, they're gifted.
It is.
They're gifted the work of art. So this year, Paul won my work of art for Ignite the Spirit.
So backstory is and Julie, what's the, you have a website for your artwork.
do.
What is we'll put it at the end of the thing, but what is the website?
Julie Anna Freund. So my first name, Julie, and then my middle name, Anna, A-N-N-A, and then my maiden name, Freund, F-R-E-U-N-D. And the reason why I use my full name in my artwork is because there's another Julie Freund artist. She's like an abstract landscape painter in Maine. So like when I was in college and like they were teaching us how to make this stuff and all like the practical things, I obviously Googled Julie Freund and she came up. So now in my artist stuff, I use my full name and I use my maiden name.
That's .com.
.com.
Julie Anna Freund.
.com.
Freund.com. And there you can see all of her work. And she does, again, she paints some amazing pictures of horses.
Thanks.
All different. I mean, they're not it's not like you would expect.
Horse,
it's not a typical horse. It's all these different colors of a horse.
I know. I like to say, I always go back to watching Wizard of Oz, like when I was a kid with my family, and a horse of a different color. And oddly enough, too, my dad was into like kind of like weird things, but like I remember watching like Yellow Submarine when I was a kid. Like my dad was really into the Beatles and he was really into the Grateful Dead, and like my mom would be like, well, it kept you kids quiet, but she would turn on like Yellow Submarine and like all the weird colors and stuff. So that's like manifesting even now into my art. So like I love painting a pink horse with like a purple mane.
Yes. So she does amazing work painting horses, but as she said, there is a photographer for the Milwaukee Fire Department, and I feel bad because one of us I think is I pronounce his name different than you just
Well,
did.
yeah, you might pronounce it right
So,
because
I thought it
how
was
do you pronounce it?
Carnahan.
Okay, you're probably right.
Okay, so Scott is an amazing,
He is. He's so
photographer.
good.
amazing. I mean, just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I quite frankly, I wish I was still working because I would have loved to have some of the
I know.
pictures that I could give my
How
children.
incredible that the Milwaukee Fire Department has him.
Yeah, yeah. So he took a picture of one of our companies working on a roof, and Julie painted it, and she put the picture up for highest bid
Mm-hmm.
auction gifting.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim Brown, who we mentioned earlier, who's a retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 survivor, a bid on this. And there's just no way I was going to let him have it. So I outbid him. Sorry, T. And she came here today to deliver the painting that will be in our new studio. We're developing a new studio right now. It will be in the new studio. And then I hooked her into doing the podcast because I thought her story is worth hearing. So with that, here is the painting, and I don't have my camera guy here to zoom in on it, so we'll get another shot of it. But this is the painting. This is a one-off, obviously.
Yes. Oh yeah. So I don't do prints. So they're original, one of a kinds.
And this will be in our new studio, and this will be prominently displayed there because it is really a beautiful work of art. And I know that you've done other works of art for the fire service.
Yeah. So any fire department artwork I make, 100% of it goes to charity. So I do not profit off of any fire department artwork that I make. And I try to do like one a year. And this is emotional too, doing this stuff. Like I think I emotionally can only do one a year. And then, but I'm glad I'm doing, like it's good to do it. But then I'm like, okay, I need a break. And then I go back and I paint my pink horse.
Paint purple horses. No, it is, the detail is amazing. And I mean, it's just amazing.
Thank you.
And we will proudly have this in our
congratulations
in our new studio.
And thank you.
And I just can't say enough.
Thank you.
Julie, it was amazing having you here today.
Thanks, Paul. So great to talk.
You know, our goal when we established this podcast was to, do the right thing and to bring positivity into the American Fire Service, and to maybe find a way to block some of the negativity and some of the things that are on social media. If somebody posts something in 15 minutes of a fire and there's 500 armchair, quarterbacks.
Oh gosh, keyboard warriors.
Doing this or doing that. Oh, they shouldn't be doing this. Why are they doing this? All these other things. And I never wanted to bring negativity to this podcast. And I wanted to bring the stories of real human beings like yourself who
That's what it's about.
are willing to open up and to tell our listeners that, sometimes it's not all right.
And it's okay that it's not.
And it's okay that it's not. I'm a firm believer in that. I've been to enough therapy. There are some times that I literally, and I'm blessed because I'm married to a woman that just listens to me. And I can say, look, I just got to talk right now. I just got to talk this out in my head. I've been talking it out in my head. I'm not getting the answer I want. I just want to talk, just pass this on. I'm not expecting anything from you. Don't say anything.
But sometimes saying it out loud you'll get.
But just let me. And
they probably tune out. I'm sure my husband does.
But
he's off in his own little world.
But when I do, by the end of it, I'm like, I feel good again. And and I'm ready to go. And it's not, don't get me wrong. I won't be crying around. I don't cry at my wife when she watches Christmas movies from, June until Christmas. I'm not going to sit there and cry over these romantic Christmas movies, but it is okay to cry. It is okay to have bad. It is, you know, there's some times that things are just not right. You know, they're not right in my head, and I'm sad or depressed or whatever, and it's okay. All that's okay. It's not. We are not. You know, as firefighters, we are not the things we see. We are not designed to see. And sometimes the decisions we make, you know, we talked about it in the first episode that you have survivor's guilt. Why did I live and they didn't? Those things happen, and you have to live with that too. So it's okay. You know, you go through your life being an emotional person. You know, you don't need to be this hard-nosed badass. Some of the quite frankly, some of the most dangerous men I've ever met, people with DevGru and Tier 1 operators, are some of the most loving and caring individuals I've ever seen. I met one. I saw one of them again last Saturday at this event, and I haven't seen him in a while. And we talked, and I thought the same thing. I thought, you know what, this dude hasn't changed at all. He did his whole career, you know, in the teams, and he's still this happy-go-lucky, loving guy. The fact that he got to see the sun come up this morning, and his kids and his wife did. And
every day's a bonus.
Every day's a bonus. So there's where we're going to end. Every day is a bonus, and let's not forget that. So, Julie, thank you for being here.
Paul.
I really appreciate your time. To our brothers and sisters and all of our listeners, if you like what you heard here today, again, I ask you to subscribe. You are the backbone of this. None of this can be done without you watching and listening. So I appreciate every single one of you. Until we meet again from the Conway Shield studio, all of us at Beyond a Shield, have a wonderful day. God bless.